Hey YouTube, it's Sean and Griffin RC Planes. A lot of you guys are asking to see more of what I do at work, so we'll try to film some and see how much I can get away with. So this truck has a whole laundry list of things to do. I'll tell you all about that later on, but we're going to replace the transmission. First things first, we're going to take this whole exhaust system off of the truck. This is what's called the one box. This exhaust system box converts the raw emissions from the engine and basically puts out clean air once it's done with all the magic that goes on inside the one box exhaust system. So let's take this off so we can access some more stuff easily, and then I'll fill you in more with other details as we go along. Allison automatic transmission. Gonna replace it. Hang on. Just to give us a little more room, getting rid of this. The bandana keeps the sweat out of my face, and it keeps these greasy lights from getting my pretty hair messed up. So, get rid of a couple of these brackets. You can do it with these brackets on, but they're just the right sharpness and stuff to make for a bad day. Easy to remove, gives you more working room. Now, a couple plugs in here. Get this plug off of here. Take this DEF fluid doser off.
Okay, had a little microphone issue for a minute. So I removed the bottom exhaust one box outlet clamp that goes to that smokestack, and the whole smokestack just fell down, nearly hit me. Plus, I had zip tied the DEF fluid doser to that exhaust pipe. That stack should not fall down. So something was broken up above, just created more work. And right there is the one box outlet where that exhaust stack went to, that I should have just undone that clamp and the pipe would just have stayed in place. But luckily, that harness and the DEF doser was not broke. And I'm showing you that's the exhaust one box inlet pipe that I took the clamp loose. I've unplugged that harness. That's the DEF fluid doser hanging right there. And there's a few bolts to take the box off. There's two right above that pipe on the left. Those two, and there's two above it, a total of 8 bolts to hold the whole one box system to the truck frame. Once you get the 8 bolts out, you leave a couple in there until you get the specially designed jack in place. That jack is made just for these Detroit one box exhaust systems. It's the right width, it goes up the right height, all that works out really well. And I'll get it jacked up and take a little, put a little pressure on the jack, undo the remaining couple bolts that I have in place, And then you just kind of gently massage the exhaust box. You wiggle it and jiggle it until you get your bolts out. And then make sure you're not going to scratch any paint, or make sure you didn't leave something plugged up or whatever, and roll the one box exhaust system away from the truck. I can remove this entire exhaust system if you don't have any trouble, no broken bolts or anything like that, 30 minutes. And by removing that, it just opens up a big area to work on things. Any of work that you need to do on top of the transmission or under that cab, removing this just makes life easier. And there you have it. That's the entire exhaust system for that Detroit engine. That's called the one box. And yes, that's the correct name. That's the Allison transmission that we're going to be replacing. Just kind of showing it to you guys. That's a fully automatic transmission in that big Western Star truck. And that's who I work for, is Western Star. We're a dealer. That's the raw emissions, the exhaust coming directly out of the engine, going into that one box system. And I'll show you how good of a job that box does by cleaning up the exhaust. Going into that system is all the soot, and then coming out of the system it's night and day. Let me show you here a good examples. Okay, that's going in. Look at all that black soot. If you touch that, your hand will be covered, just like you put your hand in your fireplace. That's entering one box. Now that's exiting. Look at the difference. Look how clean it makes the emissions and the exhaust. Not bad. Okay, my microphone's fixed now.
So the reason I'm replacing this transmission is obviously because it's bad, and the transmission cooler had failed, which is right here, and the customer replaced the cooler. But what they didn't do was flush out the transmission oil lines, and they didn't flush out the coolant lines. So when your transmission fluid and your antifreeze mix, the mixture ruins the material that it's not intended for. So the hoses that carry coolant are not intended for transmission fluid, and vice versa. So here's a good example. Here's the upper radiator hose, and you can see the color change of it right there. That's from the automatic transmission fluid being in a hose that's designed for coolant. So I've got to flush out the entire cooling system and replace every hose on the cooling system, plus replace every hose for the transmission. When the transmission cooler failed and the customer replaced it, if they would have flushed everything like I'm going to do, then the transmission would have had a good chance on not failing. But they drove it and drove it and drove it with oil and antifreeze in the transmission, and it cooked that very, very, very expensive Allison automatic transmission in this huge Western Star 4700 truck. I was just looking for the axles too. Well, there they are. Someone threw them inside, so we'll have to get those out. All right, I'm going to drain the coolant, and then we're going to attempt to try to jack this thing up. It's loaded, probably weighing in at 100,000 pounds. It's going to be quite the chore. It's full of mud, and it's leaking. Once I get it jacked up, it's going to leak more. I got some diapers down there to try to soak it up. All right, let's drain the coolant, and then we'll try to jack it up, and that'll be all for this one. All right, get my drain pan, and you drain the coolant from the transmission cooler right here. Wasn't very tight. It might already be drained. I don't know. So I didn't start this process. I'm just finishing it. You can tell that whoever did this doesn't do this on a regular basis because there's Teflon tape on the drain plug. At least they tried to use something. But you don't use Teflon tape. That was something you did for household plumbing a long time ago. About to get a bath here, so hopefully, yep, there it goes. It has not been drained quite a bit. The coolant looks pretty good right now. When it gets toward the end of it, probably see some oil. All right, so I'm gonna attempt to raise it. I've got these pneumatic wheel lift jacks, one on each side. If the truck was empty, the jacks would lift them up no problem. So I also threw a 10-ton jack down here, so I got 20,000 lifting in the center. And then each one of these wheel lifts are 10,000. So we've got 40,000 lifting capability. And I probably got a 100,000-pound truck with a center point on this axle. The front axle is not holding, or the front rear axle is not holding any weight. It's barely touching the ground. That axle goes up and down by air, and it's up. So right there, that's going to be my pivot point. So I've got quite a bit of weight. Got my jack stands down there ready, and we'll just see what happens. So I guess I got a little pressure on the blue jack already. Now I'll put some on the wheel lifts. Make sure it's not pinching any hoses or anything. All right, I'm gonna put quite a bit more on the wheel lifts, and then we'll put some on the blue jack, and then some on the wheel lifts. And the wheel lifts aren't even budging it. Till the blue jack does some work. Put some more on the wheel lifts. And the blue jack. A little more on the wheel lifts. Now the blue jack. Now I can put jack stands in place. If it falls now, it'll land on the jack stands. I'm gonna try to go up a little bit more to where I can get one more, I'm gonna call it hole, on the jack stand. So we'll put some more air on the wheel lifts. If the wheel lifts aren't really budging it, I hear it squeaking a little bit. Put some more on the wheel lifts. I heard one safety latch on the wheel lifts. That's good. Looks like I can get one more notch on the jack stands. Not quite. Almost. So more on the wheel lifts. And then blue jack. looks like we can get one jack stand up underneath here. All right, we got one underneath that went up another hole. All right, both jack stands are in place. So we need to reverse the process little by little. I need to undo the safety latches on the wheel lifts. And then we'll lower the wheel lift a little and lower the blue jack a little. That's all the weight off of the blue jack. I'm going to leave it there for a second and just double check that the jack stands are centered and they're sitting flush on the ground and all that. And looks like we got it. Well, we got it raised up. It doesn't look like it's that high to you guys, and you might be questioning why I went through all that trouble to raise it just a few inches. Well, every little bit counts when you're working down here, and give you a little more working room. And then plus this transmission right here. Let me get a light. All right, we're under the truck. So every little bit helps, especially when we got to pull this drive shaft out and at least lay it to the side. This is looking back at the transmission. This is the transmission that we're going to take out. We got to take the hydraulic PTO pump off of it. And then once I have the transmission sitting on the jack stand, I need to be able to get it out from under the truck. And that's why, so that's one of the main reasons why we took off the one box exhaust system, so that when I lower the transmission down, then I can roll it out. All right, well, this will be part one of this job, and depending on the reaction, maybe we'll do some more. So if you like this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments and give me a like. I'd really appreciate that. And make sure that you're still subscribed. Thank you, guys. Until next time, you'll see me here.